Dr. Hana stared at the strange crystals growing on the asteroid's surface. They glowed with soft blue light, unlike anything she had seen before. She made careful notes in her datapad while floating in her spacesuit near the research ship Harmony's edge. "These crystals are amazing," she said into her radio. "They seem to be alive somehow." Day, her research partner, floated nearby with his scanner. "The readings are off the charts. These things are generating their own energy." He was excited. After 3 years of studying boring rocks in space, they had finally found something special. The Harmony's Edge was a joint ship between humans and the peaceful Alterian collective. It was not a warship. It had basic shields and no weapons. The ship was built for science, not fighting. Minho sat in the communications room aboard the ship. He monitored radio signals from nearby systems while the science team worked outside. Everything seemed normal. The Veil Nebula was known to be safe space. No one ever came here to cause trouble. "Dr. Hana, you should see this," Day called out. He had found a cluster of crystals that pulsed in patterns. "I think they are trying to communicate." Hana pushed herself through space toward Day's position. The crystals were beautiful. They changed colors from blue to purple to green. The patterns seemed to have meaning, like a language made of light. "We need to get samples," Hana said. "This could change everything we know about life in space." As they worked, neither scientist noticed the dark shapes moving through the nebula toward them. The Ravager swarm had been hunting in this area for weeks. They followed the energy signatures that all ships gave off. The Harmony's Edge looked like easy prey. The Ravagers were not like humans or Alterians. They came from a different part of the galaxy where only the strong survived. They took what they wanted and destroyed the rest. Their ships looked like giant insects made of metal and hate. Warlord Vextar commanded the lead ship. He was massive, with 4 arms and skin like black stone. His people had conquered dozens of worlds. They turned peaceful planets into slave camps and mining operations. The Ravagers never built anything new. They only took from others. "Small ship ahead," reported his scanner operator. "Weak shields, no weapons." Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Perfect. Take them alive if possible. Dead slaves work poorly." On the Harmony's Edge, alarms suddenly screamed. Minho jumped up from his station as red lights flashed all around him. His screen showed 5 large ships dropping out of hyperspace around them. "Captain, we have company," Minho shouted into his radio. Captain Yoon was a retired military officer from the Korean Space Navy. He had taken this peaceful job to see the galaxy without fighting. But his old instincts kicked in when he saw the enemy ships. "All crew to battle. Stations," he ordered, even though they had no weapons. "Hana, Day, get back to the ship now." The 2 scientists saw the Ravager ships approaching. The alien vessels were huge and covered in spikes and weapon ports. Fear filled their hearts as they rushed back toward their ship. "We will never outrun them," Day said as they flew through space as fast as their suit thrusters could carry them. "We have to try," Hana replied. She could see weapon ports opening on the closest enemy ship. Captain Yoon pushed the engines to maximum power. The Harmony's Edge was fast, but not fast enough. The Ravager ships surrounded them like wolves around a deer. "This is Warlord Vextar of the Ravager swarm," came a harsh voice over the radio. "Stop your ship and prepare to be boarded. Resist and die." Minho's hands moved quickly over his controls. He started recording a distress message while trying to boost their communication array. If they were going to be captured, someone needed to know what happened to them. "Emergency message," Minho spoke into his recorder. "This is the research vessel Harmony's Edge. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces in the Veil Nebula. Crew manifest includes human personnel. Repeat, human personnel aboard." He added the special codes that would mark this as a priority message. All ships with human crew carried these codes. They had been put in place after the last war. When humans were threatened, other humans came to help, always. The first Ravager energy blast hit their engines. The ship shook hard enough to throw everyone against the walls. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. The lights flickered and went out, replaced by dim emergency lighting. "Shields failing," reported the Alterian pilot. "Hull damage on decks 3 and 4. Captain Yoon knew they were finished. "Minho, get that message out now." Minho slammed his fist on the transmission button. The distress signal shot out into space, carried by quantum channels that could cross the galaxy in hours instead of days. The message contained their location, crew information, and most importantly, the special human emergency codes. More energy. Blasts hit the ship. The artificial gravity failed, making everyone float. The air recycling system made strange noises before going silent. They had maybe an hour of air left. Hana and Day made it back to the ship, just as the first Ravager boarding, pods attached to the hull. They could hear cutting tools working through the metal walls. "Stay together," Captain Yoon told his crew. "Do not resist. We are scientists, not soldiers." The wall exploded inward. Ravager warriors floated through the hole, wearing armor and carrying energy weapons. They were even more frightening up close. Their eyes glowed red and their claws could tear through metal. Vextar himself came aboard. He had to duck through doorways built for smaller beings. When he saw the humans and Alterians floating helplessly in their damaged ship, he laughed. "Weak," he said in broken galactic common language. "Your people always weak." The Ravagers took the crew prisoner and brought them to their main ship. The Harmony's edge was left behind, broken and dark in space. But Minho's message was already traveling through the quantum networks, heading toward human space. On Luna Command, deep in Earth's solar system, the message arrived at Admiral June's desk within 6 hours. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. Admiral June was old but still sharp. He had fought in the War of Three Suns, where humanity first showed the galaxy what they could do when pushed too far. He knew what this message meant. "Get me Fleet Command," he ordered his aide. "All of them. Now." The special codes in Minho's message triggered automatic responses across human space. Military computers woke up reserve fleets. Retired officers received activation orders. Shipyards began loading weapons and supplies onto every available vessel. The Ravagers had made a mistake. They had touched humans, and humans protected their own. No matter the cost, no matter how far they had to travel, no matter how many enemies stood in their way. Admiral June looked out at the stars from his office window. Somewhere out there, his people were prisoners of aliens who thought they were easy prey. The Ravagers would learn the truth soon enough. "Protocol 7, he said quietly to himself. "Total fleet mobilization." The message had been sent. The fleet would answer, and the galaxy would remember once again why humans were called the unstoppable Deathworld fleet. Captain Sue felt her ship shake as the massive engines came online. The dreadnought Soul's Fury was one of the biggest warships in the human fleet. It had been built after the last war, when humanity decided they would never be caught unprepared. Again, "All systems green," reported her weapons officer. "Main guns ready, fighter squadrons ready. We are ready for war, Captain." Sue nodded and looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed other human ships gathering near the moon. Dozens of vessels appeared every hour as the fleet mobilization continued. Ships that had been patrolling the outer colonies. Ships that had been in dock for repairs. Even old ships from the reserve fleets were being activated. "Any word from Admiral June?" she asked. "He is still gathering intelligence on the enemy," her communications officer replied. "But he wants all battle groups ready to move within 12 hours. Across human space, the same scene played out at dozens of military bases. Colonel Wook stood in the hangar bay of the assault carrier Busan's Revenge, watching his Marines prepare for battle. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were Deathworld Marines trained on planets where the weather could kill you and the animals were worse. "Listen up," Wook called to his troops. "Our people have been taken by aliens who think we are weak. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The Marines cheered. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Most had never seen real combat, but their training was harder than most wars. They were ready. Meanwhile, on the Ravager Fortress world, Hana sat in a cold metal cell with her crewmates. The gravity here was too strong, making every movement difficult. The air smelled wrong and made her throat burn, but she was alive, and that was more than many Ravager prisoners could say. "How long do you think we have been here?" Day asked. Without windows or clocks, it was hard to tell time. "Maybe 2 days," Minho answered. Hard to say. The aliens do not seem to have normal day and night cycles. Captain Yoon had been taken away for questioning hours ago. They had not seen him since. Hana tried not to think about what the Ravagers might be doing to him. The cell door opened with a loud clang. 2 Ravager guards pushed Captain Yoon back inside. He was hurt, but still alive. His uniform was torn and he moved slowly. What did they want? Hana asked, helping him sit down. They wanted to know about human military strength, Captain Yoon said quietly. I told them nothing useful, but they are getting frustrated. The Ravagers had been surprised by human physical toughness. Their usual torture methods barely worked on people who came from a world where everything tried to kill them. Humans were used to pain in ways that other species were not. Warlord Vextar paced in his command center, angry at the lack of progress. His interrogators reported that the humans were unusually resistant to standard techniques. This was puzzling. Most species broke quickly when faced with Ravager methods. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we have been monitoring communication channels. There is unusual activity in human space. Many ships are moving. Vexitar waved a dismissive claw. So what? Humans are weak traders and scientists. They have no real military. The intelligence officer looked nervous. Sir, our databases show that humans were involved in several recent conflicts. They have a reputation for enough, Vextar roared. I care nothing for reputation. Bring me useful information or leave my sight. But across the Ravager fleet, other commanders were sharing stories they had heard. Tales of human ferocity in battle. Reports of entire enemy fleets disappearing when they threatened human colonies. Most dismissed these as legends, but some wondered if they should be more careful. Back in human space, Commander Yuki prepared her stealth destroyer Inchin's Shadow for departure. Her ship was designed for reconnaissance and surprise attacks. It was fast, invisible to most sensors, and deadly. Navigation, set course for the rally point, she ordered. Maximum stealth protocols. Her crew worked with quiet efficiency. They were specialists in covert operations. When the main fleet arrived at the enemy location, Yuki's ships would already be there, watching and waiting. Admiral Kwan read the intelligence reports in his private cabin aboard the flagship Eternal Victory. He was old now, supposed to be retired, and enjoying his garden back on Earth. But when the call came, he could not refuse. He had fought the Ravagers before 20 years ago in the Outer Rim Wars. They never learn, he said to himself. They think violence makes them strong. They will discover their mistake. His aide knocked and entered. Sir, the last battle group has reported ready status. We have 847 ships assembled. That is the largest human fleet ever gathered. Kwan nodded. Good. And our mercenary friends? Captain Tay and Captain Bach have confirmed their participation. Their crews are eager for the bounty money we are offering for rescued prisoners. The mercenaries were an interesting addition to the fleet. They flew fast ships and knew how to fight dirty. Some people questioned their loyalty, but Kwan understood them. They were still human, and they protected their own just like everyone else. On Luna Command, Admiral June received hourly updates on fleet status. The mobilization was ahead of schedule. Word of captured humans had spread quickly through military channels, and everyone wanted to be part of the rescue mission. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we have intercepted Ravager communications. They are not taking our response seriously. They seem to think this is normal trade ship activity. June smiled coldly. Perfect. Let them think that. Surprise is a valuable weapon. The Ravagers had made a crucial error. They judged other species by their own standards. Because they were naturally cruel and aggressive, they assumed that peaceful behavior meant weakness. They had never encountered a species that chose peace from a position of strength. Humans had learned to be careful with their power. They knew what they could do when pushed too far. The galaxy had seen glimpses of this during the War of Three Suns, when humanity ended 3 separate conflicts in a single month. But most species had forgotten or chosen to ignore those lessons. Captain Tay finished loading supplies onto her ship, Lucky Dragon. She was a freelance cargo hauler most of the time, but her ship had hidden weapon systems and her crew were all former military. When humans were in danger, Prophet took second place to duty. "Boss?" her gunner asked. "Think this will be a real fight?" Tay checked her weapons one more time. "I hope not. If we do our job right, it will be over before they know what hit them." Back. On the Ravager Fortress, Minho had been working quietly on a small project. Using pieces of broken equipment from their cell, he was building a simple transmitter. It would not be powerful, but it might be enough to send a weak signal. "What are you doing?" Hana whispered. "Trying to let our people know exactly where we are," Minho replied. "If a rescue comes, they will need coordinates." Captain Yoon watched Minho work. The young communications officer was clever and determined. Even as a prisoner, he was still trying to help his crew survive. "The Ravagers do not understand us," Captain Yoon said quietly. "They think we are just another weak species to be conquered. They have no idea what is coming." Outside their cell, Ravager guards walked their patrols. They joked about the human prisoners and how easily they had been captured. None of them noticed the small antenna that Minho had carefully hidden in a crack in the wall. The distress signal was weak, but it pulsed steadily into space. Somewhere out there, the largest human fleet in history was gathering. They would come. They always came. And when they arrived, the Ravagers would learn why the rest of the galaxy called them the unstoppable Deathworld fleet. Admiral Quan stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked out at the assembled armada. Hundreds of ships floated in perfect formation, ready for battle. Each one carried crew members who understood what was at stake. This was not about conquest or glory. This was about bringing their people home. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his fleet coordinator announced. Quan nodded slowly. "Then let us remind the galaxy why they fear us. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump." The first Ravager scout ship died without sending a warning. Commander Yuki's stealth destroyer struck from the darkness of space, weapons blazing. The enemy vessel exploded in brilliant light, then went silent forever. "Target destroyed, her," weapons officer reported. "No distress signal sent." Yuki nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent. Move to the next patrol route." For 2 days, her squadron had been hunting Ravager scouts at the edge of their territory. But now she was letting some escape on purpose. Admiral Quan wanted the enemy to know something was coming, just not how big it really was. "Contact." Her sensor operator called out. "Single Ravager patrol ship moving toward the inner system." "Let this one see us," Yuki ordered. "Give them a good look at human ship design, then let them run home." The Inchin's shadow dropped its stealth field and appeared directly in front of the surprised Ravager patrol. The enemy captain immediately turned to flee, broadcasting warnings about human military vessels in the outer system. Yuki smiled. Perfect. Now the Ravagers would start to worry. On the fortress world, panic was indeed starting to spread. Reports of destroyed patrols and human warships reached Warlord Vextar every few hours. His intelligence officers tried to piece together what was happening. "How many ships?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. The scouts who escaped report different vessel types. Maybe a dozen ships total." Vextar relaxed slightly. A dozen human ships would not be enough to threaten his fleet. "Prepare our defenses, anyway, and increase security around the prisoners." What the Ravagers did not know was that they were seeing only the advanced scouts. The main human fleet was still 3 systems away, moving carefully and quietly through space. Admiral Quan was taking no chances with surprise. In their cell, the human prisoners felt the fortress shaking as defensive weapons were powered up. Captain Yoon recognized the sound from his military days. "They are preparing for attack," he told the others. "Something has them worried." Minho's small transmitter had been working for hours, sending out weak location signals. He hoped desperately that human ships were close enough to receive them. "There," he whispered, adjusting a loose connection. "Signal strength up 10%. Day watched the door nervously. If the guards discovered what Minho was doing, they would all face punishment worse than their current situation. "How much longer?" Hana asked. "The battery will last maybe 12 more hours, Minho replied. "After that we go silent." Captain Su received the location signal aboard Soul's Fury, while her battle group moved through hyperspace. The weak transmission was almost lost in space background noise, but human communication equipment was very good at finding faint signals. "Navigation, mark those coordinates," she ordered. "That is our target." Her tactical officer studied the sensor data. "Captain, I am reading massive defensive installations. This will not be an easy fight." Sue looked at the display showing enemy positions. The Ravager fortress was heavily defended, with orbital weapons platforms and patrol fleets. But humans had faced worse odds before. "Easy fights are boring," she said. "Signal the fleet. Tell them we have found our people." Colonel Wook was briefing his Marines when the location data arrived. He updated his tactical plans immediately. The fortress would need to be taken from the inside while the fleet engaged enemy ships in space. "Listen up," he told his troops. "This is a rescue mission. We go in fast, find our people and get them out alive. Everything else is secondary." The Marines checked their equipment one final time. Their armor was designed for combat in any environment. Their weapons could punch through most enemy defenses, but their most important tool was their training on worlds where survival required constant alertness. Back at the Ravager fortress, Warlord Vextar was becoming more concerned as reports continued arriving. Human ships had been spotted in 3 different systems, always attacking from stealth and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. "Sir," his fleet commander reported, "we should consider moving the fortress to a more secure location." Vextar slammed his fist on the command table. "We run from no one, especially not from weak humans. How many ships can they possibly have?" A question was about to be answered. Long-range sensors began detecting massive hyperspace disturbances heading toward their system. Whatever was coming, it was big. Admiral Quan stood on the bridge of eternal victory as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Ravager system. 800 ships appeared in perfect formation, their weapon systems already charging for battle. "Target analysis complete, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. "Enemy fortress is heavily defended, approximately 200 ships in defensive positions." Quan studied the tactical display. The Ravagers had good positions and strong defenses. Under normal circumstances, this would be a difficult battle. But these were not normal circumstances. "Communications, open a channel to the enemy fortress," he ordered. The main screen showed Warlord Vextar, who was clearly shocked by the size of the human fleet. His 4 eyes were wide with surprise and growing fear. "I am Admiral Quan of the Human Defense Fleet," Quan said calmly. "You are holding our people prisoner. Release them immediately and we will allow you to leave this system alive." Vextar tried to maintain his composure. "You dare threaten the Ravager swarm? We have conquered 100 worlds, and yet you have never conquered a human world," Quan replied. "There is a reason for that. I suggest you consider it carefully." The transmission ended. Vexitar looked at his fleet display, seeing the massive human formation arrayed against him. For the first time in his life, he felt genuine fear. "How did they assemble so many ships so quickly?" he asked. His intelligence officer checked the data again. "Sir, our sources suggest this is not their full fleet. Records indicate humans have much larger forces held in reserve." The truth was even worse than that. This was indeed the largest human fleet ever assembled, but it had been created specifically for this rescue mission. When humans were threatened, every ship that could fly and fight was called to action. Captain Tay moved her modified cargo ship Lucky Dragon into position with the other mercenary vessels. They would handle fast attack runs while the main fleet engaged the enemy battle line. "All mercenary ships, this is Dragon Leader," she broadcast. "Remember, we are here for rescue and prize money. Do not take unnecessary risks." The mercenary captains acknowledged her transmission. They were outnumbered by regular military ships, but they knew these waters better than anyone. Their job was to punch holes in enemy formations and create opportunities for the Marines to get through. On the fortress world, alarms began screaming as sensors detected the massive human fleet. Ravager defenders ran to battle stations, but many were clearly frightened by what they were seeing. 800 ships, a guard said to his companion as they passed the prisoner's cell. "How do humans have so many warships?" Captain Yoon heard this and felt hope for the first time in days. 800 ships was far more than needed for a simple rescue. His people were coming in overwhelming force. "Did you hear that?" he whispered to the others. Hana nodded, tears in her eyes. "They came for us. All of them." Minho's transmitter continued sending location data. He had managed to boost the power slightly by rewiring components from their emergency lights. The signal would now be strong enough for rescue teams to find them even in the chaos of battle. Admiral Kwan gave his final orders to the fleet. "All ships, prepare for combat operations. Rules of engagement are simple. Destroy any ship that fires on you. Capture any ship that surrenders. Rescue our people at all costs." The human fleet began moving toward the fortress. They advanced in perfect formation, weapons charged and shields raised. It was a sight that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. Warlord Vextar watched the approaching armada and realized he had made a terrible mistake. These were not the weak traders and scientists his people usually preyed upon. These were the legendary human warriors he had heard about in whispered stories. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "prepare to defend the fortress. Fight with honor or die in shame." But in his heart, Vexitar knew the truth. His people had never faced an enemy like this. The humans were coming not for conquest or glory, but for something far more dangerous. They were coming to protect their own. The first human ships entered weapons range. Energy beams began to light up space as the battle for the Ravager fortress began. Space erupted in brilliant flashes of light as human and Ravager fleets clashed. The first exchange of fire showed immediately how different these two forces were. Human weapons were precise and devastating. Ravager weapons were crude but powerful. Captain Sue watched her tactical display as Soul's Fury engaged 3 enemy cruisers at once. Her ship's shields absorbed their attacks while her main guns systematically destroyed their weapon systems. "Target their engines," she ordered. "Leave them, alive but helpless." This was Admiral Kwan's strategy. Destroy the ships that fought, capture the ones that surrendered, but always give the enemy a chance to give up. Humans preferred to win through overwhelming force, rather than unnecessary killing. The Ravagers were not used to this approach. They fought to destroy or be destroyed. The concept of mercy in battle was foreign to them. When human ships disabled rather than destroyed their vessels, it confused and frightened them. "Sir," a Ravager captain reported to Warlord Vextar, "the humans are not trying to kill us. They are disabling our ships and demanding surrender." Vextar could not understand this tactic. It must be a trap. Keep fighting. But his fleet was being systematically torn apart. Human ships moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons never missed. Their shields seemed to absorb damage that should have destroyed them. Commander Yuki led her stealth destroyers in fast strikes against enemy supply ships. These vessels carried fuel, ammunition, and spare parts for the Ravager fleet. Without them, the enemy could not maintain their defense. "Dragon Squadron, form up on my position," she broadcast. "We are going after their command ship." Her small fleet moved through the battle like ghosts, avoiding the main fighting while striking at key targets. The Ravagers never saw them coming until it was too late. On the Fortress world, Colonel Wook prepared his Marines for the largest combat drop in human history. 50,000 soldiers in powered armor were ready to launch from their assault ships. "Remember, your training," he told his troops over the communication system. "We are going into enemy territory to bring our people home. Every human life is worth any risk." The Marines responded with a battle cry that had been heard on 100 worlds. No one left behind. The assault carriers moved closer to the fortress, protected by the main fleet's guns. Ravager defensive weapons fired desperately at the approaching ships, but human shields held against everything the enemy could throw at them. Captain Tay led the mercenary ships in a wild charge directly at the fortress's main weapon systems. Her modified cargo ship Lucky Dragon was not built for this kind of fighting, but her crew had nerves of steel. "All power to forward shields," she ordered as energy beams lit up space around them. "We need to get close enough for the Marines to land." Her gunner destroyed 2 defensive towers with precise shots from their hidden weapons. These Ravagers really do not know how to fight humans, he said with grim satisfaction. Inside the fortress, Hana felt the structure shake as human weapons struck the outer defenses. The lights flickered and gravity fluctuated. Whatever was happening, outside it was getting closer. They are really here, Day said in wonder. I can hardly believe it. Captain Yoon listened to the sounds of battle. The attack is systematic. Our people are not just trying to rescue us. They are destroying this entire facility. Minho's transmitter had been broadcasting for hours. Now it was receiving return signals from human forces. Someone was trying to establish communication. This is Dragon Actual, came a voice through, static. Human prisoners, please respond. Minho grabbed the device with shaking hands. This is Communications Officer Minho of the Harmony's Edge. We are alive. 5 human prisoners in cell block 7. Confirmed, Minho. This is Captain Tay. Hold your position. Marine assault teams are on the way. The fortress shook again, more violently this time. Through the walls they could hear the sound of metal tearing and explosions getting closer. The human fleet was not just attacking the defenses. They were coming for the prisoners directly. Warlord Vextar watched his fleet dissolve around him. Ship after ship was either destroyed or forced to surrender. His carefully planned defenses were being swept aside like they were made of paper. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we have lost 60% of our fleet. The fortress shields are failing. Vextar stared at the display showing human ships surrounding his stronghold. He had never seen such overwhelming force applied, with such precision. Every human move seemed perfectly planned and executed. How many ships did they send? He asked. All of them, sir. Every human warship we can detect is here. For the first time, Vextar began to understand what he was facing. This was not a normal military operation. This was an entire species coming to protect its own. The first Marine drop pods slammed into the fortress surface like meteors. Colonel Wook led the assault personally, his powered armor allowing him to survive impacts that would kill unprotected beings. Breach teams, move to your assigned targets, he ordered. Rescue teams, follow the beacon signals. Everyone else, clear a path. The Marines moved through the fortress like a force of nature. Their weapons cut through Ravager defenders easily. Their armor protected them from enemy counterattacks. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Ravager guards tried to stop them, but found themselves facing soldiers who had learned to fight on worlds where everything was trying to kill them. The Marines moved with deadly efficiency, never wasting motion or ammunition. Prisoners located, reported Team 7 leader. Human life signs detected in cell block 7. Colonel Wook changed course immediately. All teams converge on that. Position. Let us bring our people home. The human prisoners heard the sound of cutting tools working on their cell door. Then came a voice they had been praying to hear. This is Colonel Wook, Human Marines. We are here to get you out. The door exploded inward, and Marine soldiers in powered armor rushed into the cell. To the prisoners, they looked like armored angels, sent from heaven. Are you hurt? The colonel asked as his medics checked each prisoner quickly. We are okay, Captain Yoon replied. Just happy to see you. Sir, one of the Marines reported, we have located approximately 300 other prisoners from various species. What are your orders? Colonel Wook did not hesitate. We rescue them all. No one gets left behind on our watch. This was typically human. They had come to rescue 5 of their own people, but they would not leave others to suffer if they could help it. Even in the middle of a battle, human compassion guided their actions. Outside the fortress, Admiral Kwan received reports from his ship commanders. The Ravager fleet was finished. Most enemy vessels had been destroyed or captured. The fortress defenses were down. Admiral, his communications officer reported. Colonel Wook confirms prisoners are secure. All human personnel are safe. Kwan nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. Signal all ships to begin withdrawal. Our mission is complete. But Warlord Vextar was not finished. His personal flagship still had weapons, and he was desperate enough to use them against helpless prisoners rather than accept defeat. Target the human rescue ships, he ordered. If we are to die, we will take some of them with us. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, they are carrying prisoners. Many of our own people are aboard those ships. I do not care, Vextar screamed. Fire! The flagship's main guns swiveled toward the marine transports leaving the fortress. But Captain Sue was watching from Soul's Fury, and she was not about to let enemy weapons threaten rescued prisoners. All batteries target that flagship, she ordered. Maximum firepower. End this now. The human dreadnought's weapons spoke, with final authority. Energy beams and missile barrages struck Vextar's ship from multiple directions. The enemy flagship exploded in a brilliant fireball that could be seen across the system. With their leader dead and their fleet destroyed, the remaining Ravagers surrendered completely. The battle for the fortress was over. Humanity had won another victory, but more importantly, they had brought their people home. Colonel Wook personally escorted the human prisoners to the medical bay aboard Busan's Revenge. They were safe now, protected by the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. How did you find us so quickly? Hana asked. Your distress signal, the colonel replied. When humans are threatened, we come. All of us. It is what we do. The medical bay aboard Busan's Revenge was quiet except for the soft hum of healing equipment. Dr. Hana lay on a comfortable bed, finally safe after her ordeal. The ship's doctor had declared her and her crewmates healthy, despite their captivity. The physical effects will heal quickly, the doctor told her, but take time to rest. You have been through a terrible experience. Captain Tay visited the rescued prisoners personally. As a mercenary, she was not required to, but she wanted to see the people her fleet had risked everything to save. You are the ones who sent the distress signal? She asked Minho. Yes, ma'am, he replied. I used the emergency human codes. Tay smiled. Those codes work better than you know. When a human is in trouble, other humans come running. It does not matter how far away we are or how dangerous it is. Through the medical bay windows, they could see the remains of the Ravager fortress. The massive structure was now a drifting ruin, its weapons silent forever. Human ships moved through the debris, searching for any remaining survivors to rescue. Admiral Quan stood on the bridge of eternal victory, reviewing the battle reports. The human fleet had suffered minimal casualties. 3 ships damaged, no, ships lost, and only 16 wounded crew members. The Ravagers had lost their entire fleet and their main base. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving surrender signals from Ravager forces in 3 nearby systems. Word of our victory is spreading quickly. Quan nodded. This was how human military doctrine worked. Overwhelming force, applied precisely to achieve victory with minimum casualties on both sides. The goal was not destruction, but protection. Send them standard surrender terms, he ordered. All prisoners to be released immediately. All aggressive actions against human allied worlds to cease. They will be allowed to withdraw to their own territory and remain there. Colonel Wook was in the fortress ruins coordinating the rescue of non-human prisoners. His Marines had found beings from dozens of different species, all victims of Ravager raids over the years. Sir, one of his sergeants reported, we have found approximately 800 prisoners total. Most are in poor condition but alive. Get them all to the hospital ships, Wook ordered. Medical care first, then transportation back to their home worlds. This was typical human behavior. They had come to rescue 5 of their own people, but they would not leave others to suffer when they could help. Even former enemies received medical care and safe transport home. The rescued prisoners watched in amazement as human ships worked tirelessly to help beings they had never met before. This was not how most military forces operated. Most species rescued their own and ignored everyone else. Why are they helping all these people? Asked a young Altarian who had been a prisoner for months. Day smiled. Because that is what humans do. They protect people who cannot protect themselves. News of the battle spread across the galaxy through communication networks and trade routes. The story grew with each telling, but the basic facts remained the same. Humans had assembled their largest fleet ever to rescue 5 people. They had destroyed an entire Ravager stronghold in less than a day. They had shown mercy to defeated enemies while helping hundreds of other prisoners. On distant worlds, alien governments read the reports with growing respect and fear. Humanity had just demonstrated the full extent of their military power, and it was far greater than anyone had imagined. 800 ships, the Vegan Council leader said to his advisors. How did they build such a fleet without anyone noticing? Sir, our intelligence suggests this is not their normal fleet size. They assembled this force specifically for this rescue mission. Most of these ships will return to civilian duties or reserve status. The council leader felt a chill. If humans could assemble 800 warships for a rescue mission, how many could they gather for an actual war? Back at Luna Command, Admiral June received congratulations from leaders across human space. The rescue mission had been a complete success, with no human lives lost and minimal damage to their forces. Sir, his aide reported, we are receiving requests from 17 different alien governments. They want to establish formal defense treaties with humanity. June was not surprised. Fear and respect often led to diplomatic opportunities. Schedule meetings with all of them, but make it clear that our protection comes with expectations. We defend those who defend others. Dr. Hana was cleared to leave the medical bay after 2 days of rest and observation. She walked through the corridors of the assault carrier, marveling at the organized efficiency of the human military. Every crew member she passed nodded respectfully. Word had spread that she was one of the rescued prisoners. To these sailors and Marines, she represented everything they had sworn to protect. Innocent people trying to make the galaxy a better place. Dr. Hana, Colonel Wook approached her as she reached the observation deck. How are you feeling? Better, thank you. I wanted to thank you personally for what you did. All of you. Wook looked out at the stars through the large windows. We did what any human would do. We brought our people home. But you saved so many others too, hundreds of prisoners from dozens of worlds. That is also what humans do, Wook replied simply. We cannot save everyone in the galaxy, but we save everyone we can. Captain Sue received new orders while Sol's Fury was still in the Ravager system. Her battle group would escort the rescued prisoners to a safe sector, then resume normal patrol duties. Captain, her executive officer asked, do you think this will stop other raiders from targeting humans? Sue looked at the tactical display showing the destroyed Ravager fleet. For a while, but there will always be someone who thinks they can take what they want from others. When that happens, we will remind them why it is a bad idea. Minho worked with the human communications teams to analyze the quantum signatures in his original distress call. The technology that had allowed his message to reach human space so quickly was being improved. This new system will cut response time in half, he explained to the technical team. Any human ship in distress will be able to reach help even faster. The lead engineer was impressed. Excellent work. Crisis often produces innovation, and your innovation will save lives. Commander Yuki prepared her stealth destroyer for departure. Her squadron had new orders to patrol the border regions, watching for other threats to human interests. Ma'am, her sensor operator asked, do you think the Ravagers will try to rebuild their fleet? Probably, Yuki replied. But they will never again underestimate what happens when you threaten humans. Word of this battle will spread to every corner of the galaxy. Admiral Kwan stood before his assembled fleet commanders for the final mission. Briefing. 800 ships floating in formation, ready to return to their normal duties across human space. Today we have reminded the galaxy of an important truth, he said over the fleet communication system. Humans protect their own. We also protect those who cannot protect themselves. This is not because we seek conquest or glory. It is because we believe that civilization must be defended against those who would destroy it. The fleet began to disperse, ships heading to dozens of different systems, but they all carried the same message. Humans would come when called. They would fight when necessary, and they would never abandon their own. Captain Yoon was offered transportation back to Earth, but he chose to remain in space. His experience with the Ravagers had changed him. He wanted to continue serving, helping to protect other peaceful explorers. "I will transfer to a patrol ship," he told Admiral Kwan. "Someone needs to keep watch over scientists like Dr. Hana." Kwan approved the transfer immediately. "The galaxy needs more people like you, Captain. People who understand that peace must be protected by those willing to fight for it." The story of the rescue mission spread far beyond military channels. On human colonies across the galaxy, children learned about the brave officers who had been captured and the mighty fleet that came to save them. It became a legend that parents told their children about human courage and determination. But the most important audience was not human at all. Across the galaxy, alien leaders read the reports and understood a simple truth: humans were not to be underestimated. They looked peaceful, but they possessed military power beyond anything most species could imagine. More importantly, they used that power not for conquest, but for protection. This made them the most dangerous enemy and the most valuable ally in the known galaxy. Dr. Hana returned to her research, now under the protection of a permanent escort fleet. She looked out at the stars from her new laboratory ship and thought about the crystals she had been studying when the Ravagers attacked. The crystals were still there in the Veil Nebula, still glowing with mysterious life. Her research would continue, but now she understood something new about the galaxy. There were forces of destruction out there, but there were also forces of protection. "Are you ready to get back to work?" Day asked, joining her at the observation window. "Yes," Hana replied, "but I will never forget what I learned. When humans are threatened, they do not just defend themselves. They defend everyone who needs defending." The human fleet had returned to its normal duties, but its message echoed across the galaxy. Touch a human, face the consequences. Threaten the innocent, face human justice.